Westphalian sovereignty is the principle of international law that each nation-state has sovereignty over its territory and domestic affairs, to the exclusion of all external powers, on the principle of non-interference in another country's domestic affairs, and that each state, no matter how large or small, is equal in international law. The doctrine is named after the Peace of Westphalia, signed in 1648, which ended the 30 Years' War, in which the major continental European states, the Holy Roman Empire, Spain, France, Sweden and the Dutch Republic, agreed to respect one another's territorial integrity. As European influence spread across the globe, the Westphalian principles, especially the concept of sovereign states, became central to international law and to the prevailing world order. Scholars of international relations have identified the modern, Western-originated, international system of states, multinational corporations, and organizations, as having begun at the Peace of Westphalia. Both the basis and the conclusion of this view have been attacked by some revisionist academics and politicians, with revisionists questioning the significance of the peace, and some commentators and politicians attacking the Westphalian system of sovereign nation-states. The traditional view of the Westphalian system is that the Peace of Westphalia was an agreement to respect the principle of territorial integrity. In the Westphalian system, the national interests and goals of states and later nation-states were widely assumed to go beyond those of any citizen or any ruler. States became the primary institutional agents in an interstate system of relations. The Peace of Westphalia is said to have ended attempts to impose supranational authority on European states. The Westphalian doctrine of states as independent agents was bolstered by the rise in 19th-century thought of nationalism, under which legitimate states were assumed to correspond to nations, groups of people united by language and culture. The Westphalian system reached its peak in the late 19th century. Although practical considerations still led powerful states to seek to influence the affairs of others, forcible intervention by one country in the domestic affairs of another was less frequent between 1850 and 1900 than in most previous and subsequent periods. The Peace of Westphalia is important in modern international relations theory, and is often defined as the beginning of the international system with which the discipline deals. International relation theorists have identified several key principles of the Peace of Westphalia, which explain the peace's significance and its effect on the world today. 1. The principle of the sovereignty of states and the fundamental right of political self-determination. 2. The principle of legal equality between states. 3. The principle of non-intervention of one state in the internal affairs of another state. These principles are shared by the realist international relations paradigm today, which explains why the system of states is referred to as the Westphalian system. Both the idea of Westphalian sovereignty and its applicability in practice have been questioned from the mid-20th century onward from a variety of viewpoints. Much of the debate has turned on the ideas of internationalism and globalization which, in various interpretations, appear to conflict with Westphalian. The Westphalian system is used as a shorthand by academics to describe the system of states which make up the world today. In 1998, at a symposium on the continuing political relevance of the Peace of Westphalia, NATO Secretary-General Javier Solana said that humanity and democracy, two principles essentially irrelevant to the original Westphalian order, and levied a criticism that the Westphalian system had its limits. For one, the principle of sovereignty it relied on also produced the basis for rivalry, not community of states. Exclusion, not integration. In 1999, British Prime Minister Tony Blair gave a speech in Chicago where he set out a new, post-Westphalian, doctrine of the international community. Blair argued that globalization had made the Westphalian approach anachronistic. Blair was later referred to by the Daily Telegraph as the man who ushered in the post-Westphalian era. Others have also asserted that globalization has superseded the Westphalian system. In 2000, Germany's Foreign Minister Joschka Fischer referred to the Peace of Westphalia in his Humboldt speech, which argued that the system of European politics set up by Westphalia was obsolete. The core of the concept of Europe after 1945 was, and still is, a rejection of the European balance of power principle and the hegemonic ambitions of individual states that had emerged following the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. A rejection which took the form of closer meshing of vital interests and the transfer of nation-state sovereign rights to supranational European institutions. In the aftermath of the 11th of March 2004 Madrid attacks, Luis Atiyetula, who claims to represent the terrorist network Al-Qaeda, declared that the international system built up by the West since the Treaty of Westphalia will collapse, and a new international system will rise under the leadership of a mighty Islamic State. Others speak favorably of the Westphalian state, notably European nationalists and American paleoconservative Pat Buchanan. Some such supporters of the Westphalian state oppose socialism and some forms of capitalism for undermining the nation-state. A major theme of Buchanan's political career, for example, has been attacking globalization, critical theory, neoconservatism, and other philosophies he considers detrimental to today's Western nations.